Bitcoin, the future of money. How do you navigate this revolution? Join the biggest Bitcoin only event. 3 days, top speakers, cutting edge learning, network with thousands of Bitcoiners. Build your Bitcoin future at BTC Prague. Any user, upon receiving the proof of work chain, can see what the majority of the network has approved. Satoshi Nakamoto. Welcome to What is Your Bitcoin Story podcast, where we delve into the personal journeys, insights, and experiences within the world of Bitcoin. I'm your host, Gigi, and today we have an exceptional guest joining us, Master Guantai. Hailing from the vibrant city of Nairobi, Kenya, Master Guantai is more than just a Bitcoin enthusiast. He's a true Bitcoin maximalist. As the founder of BitcoinMantani and BitcoinMatatuke, hopefully I didn't butcher those two, he's on a mission to revolutionize Bitcoin education and adoption across Africa, with a keen focus on translating Bitcoin educational content into native African languages, particularly targeting the youth demographic. Master Guantai is paving the way for a new wave of Bitcoin enthusiasts. In a continent where over 70% of the population consists of young individuals, his innovative approach resonates deeply, bridging the gap between Bitcoin's revolutionary technology and the diverse culture of Africa. Today, we're privileged to have him share his insights, experiences, and his inspiring journey with us. So without further ado, let's dive into Master Guantai's Bitcoin story. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Fantastic introduction. It's a privilege to be here. And more so, as you just told me, as your first guest from Africa. So I'm truly honored. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. It's as I said, it's a pleasure to have you on. And yeah, it's been some time coming to get the first African guest on it, but I think you're the domino effect that will trickle through, and we'll have a lot more fellow Bitcoiners from your continent coming on the show to share their stories. So, Master Guantai, let's kick it off with, as you know, usually we ask the guests, what is your Bitcoin story? But I'll be a little bit more specific with you. I'll ask you, could you share with us what was that pivotal moment or experience that led you to become the Bitcoin maximalist that you are today and advocating for its adoption in Africa?
My pivotal moment where I decided to take Bitcoin seriously came from a point of anger. A point of anger simply because I studied business studies like in school. However, it was not taught to me, which I think is on purpose by the Kenyan curriculum, about exactly what is money, especially the Kenya shilling being pegged to the US dollar. So through my Bitcoin journey, I wanted to learn and have a remote job working and traveling the world. So I learned a couple of things from a certain gentleman on YouTube. So after learning, like, let's say for 1 year, and I came to know he's a very credible person, he started talking about Bitcoin. And his first video about Bitcoin was not literally explaining what is Bitcoin from the get-go, but explaining what is money and what are the big banks, what is Bretton Woods, and how exactly the dollar comes to be. So I was very angry that my own government, through the education system, denied me this knowledge. So I started learning about money, all about the US dollar, and I came to the realization that this is absolutely not sound money. So through learning simultaneously about what the dollar is and what Bitcoin is, that was my start into the Bitcoin rabbit hole, and I've never looked back. It just made absolute 100% sense to me.
I see. Well, it's interesting. I think this is one of the first stories where you kind of you jumped into the rabbit hole out of anger, and I guess anger is a very strong emotion, because with anger you can do two things, I guess: react or be proactive. And thankfully, you chose the proactive one, and it's led you down the journey where you are today. And I just want to share with you, you're not the only one. I mean, Kenya's not the only country in the world that doesn't educate their fellow students how money works, where does it come from. I think This is a manipulative brainwashing that happens all over the world. And I guess that's why it's taking, and it's so much harder for us Bitcoin educators to kind of to break through to the average person why Bitcoin's important, because they simply don't know how money works. And more than that, separating money from state is a big thing which Bitcoin's trying to do, because we don't need the state to dictate how our money is valued, how it works. But yeah, I mean, going to your location in Kenya. So I'll share my personal kind of early story before Bitcoin. So I was born in a small island in the Mediterranean called Cyprus back in '92, and my first travels out of Cyprus were to Kenya, because our family used to have land there, and every year New Year's we would celebrate it in Kenya, in Malindi on Angels Beach. That's where we were celebrating, so to say, the 1st of January of every year. And since I was a small child, I found it fascinating how, going to call it the developing world, everybody was sending money to each other on Nokia 3310s, And then I went back to the developed world, and everybody, to do a wire transfer, were waiting 3 days to get their money. And I was always like, wow, like, essentially, like, what a big gap, And then, of course, when Bitcoin came around, I thought, wow, like, if there's one continent that can really grasp this and needs this, it's definitely Africa.
Yeah, 100%. Because the beauty about Kenya, and I'm very happy you have been to Kenya, more so that you have even familial ties even here in the country. I'm very happy about that. But the beauty about Kenya is specifically that people, digital money to us is a way of life. Like M-Pesa, there are guys who have right now even have like a person who's 18 years old. They grow up knowing nothing but M-Pesa is money. So them having some fiat on their phone, sending, receiving, making payments is not an issue. So even onboarding them to the Bitcoin standard is that way more easier, because they already understand, instead of keeping, let's say $100 in M-Pesa, you can just tell them, just take $10, put it in Bitcoin, and then you have M-Pesa, and then you have the physical fiat. So from an onboarding standpoint, it makes it that more easier as a full-time Bitcoin educator in Kenya.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you mentioned the key digital money player in Africa, M-Pesa, right? I mean, they've been doing this for a long, long time. And as you said, kind of the young, African youth, to them, M-Pesa and digital money is the same thing. Essentially, they're everywhere. What's M-Pesa stance on Bitcoin? Are they scared of it? Are they adopting it? What's their position in that sector?
Their categorical position is they do not like Bitcoin at all.
Because they're gonna go out of business, right?
Exactly, because M-Pesa is owned by a telco called Safaricom PLC. So for Safaricom PLC being a telco, they're all about just selling airtime and just selling internet bundles for your phone. But now their biggest money maker is M-Pesa, because they charge quite a bit, like for sending and receiving money. Because let's say the equivalent of, for instance, 1,000 Kenya shillings should be ballpark like $10. So they charge like, let's say, two and like $2 to send $10. So
20% fee.
for them, like, if I like, they make a lot of money through M-Pesa. The M-Pesa is their core business, but they don't play it to be, it's just a money sending service, but it's really not,
Wow.
because at the end of the day, more Kenyans are into mobile banking countrywide than people who use banks.
Of
And
course.
to keep this in context, like, people with white collar jobs are very few and far between compared to any other normal Kenyan citizen who is a farmer, who's a business person. So even like the closing balance, let's say, per each and every day for M-Pesa, compared to like all the banks in the country, you can find that M-Pesa is truly like the biggest bank if it can be put in that context, but they avoid even the regulations and everything. And it's not a bank. So for
Wow.
them, on the Bitcoin is coming to eat a slice of their cake, and they do not like it at all.
So do they, since they're such big players, and as you mentioned, Master Guantai, like essentially unofficially the biggest bank in the country, like do you think they're like funneling and paying for like PR to suppress Bitcoin and say how bad it is or whatnot? Or do you think they're doing those efforts or no? Or they just think they will keep their cut of the pie and they disregard of Bitcoin as something that will pass?
I really think they do. They may not. Uh, they do it like in secret, but the fact of the matter is the government owns shares in Safaricom, meaning it owns shares in M-Pesa. And
Mm.
then to put it in context, Safaricom through M-Pesa, they are the second biggest taxpayer in regards to being a corporation to the Kenyan government. So the
Oh wow.
Kenyan government has a vested stake in Safaricom and M-Pesa service to the extent that if it is better in Kenya for all the banks not to open like for a full day and be offline than for M-Pesa to be down for even 1 hour. That is like, that will be treated as a national security issue because when M-Pesa is offline, the country is at a standstill.
Wow.
So if you look at that context, and then a very good example is when you come to the newspapers, the Kenyan newspapers and the television, like mainstream media.
Mm.
I have friends who write articles for the newspapers or do this and that business analysis, like on TV. Then they you may write an article and include something, even if you include something about Bitcoin, if it's not negative, it will either be retracted or the article will not be published on purpose.
Wow.
So if you find an editor at a local newspaper doing that, it means there is a boss of a boss of a boss who told them to be very clear, we hate Bitcoin, so don't write about it.
Wow. And then I guess, well, I'm sure the young generations, I don't know how much they follow mainstream media because most, especially Gen Zs, they're all, on their phones, checking out different websites, social medias and whatnot, which is much harder to suppress than, the traditional media, which goes through editorial processes and everything needs to get checked and reviewed and suppressed in some cases. But
They
essentially,
don't,
oh,
they actually don't. Like, the average Kenyan is not into reading news because let's say something, like for instance, let's take Twitter, now X.
yeah.
Kenyans on Twitter are, let's say, a very active bunch to the extent that Kenya is the first official country through Twitter. We wrote an official letter to the IMF as Kenyans on Twitter, telling them to no longer give the Kenyan government any money because it goes towards corruption.
Wow.
So that is the first and only country which has ever done that. So to say that in Kenya people rely on like mainstream media, we are talking guys who are like 60 years old plus, maybe worked in the government, so they're used to getting a newspaper each and every day. But
Hmm.
in Kenya, buying a newspaper, it may seem like everyone is looking at you like, what's wrong with you? Because everything happens, it's either on TikTok, Instagram, and on Twitter. So if you're writing about, let's say, floods which are happening now and there was an accident, if that newspaper comes out in the morning, it's essentially a printing for me old news.
True.
So people
True.
people in Kenya are very, like, the electricity is very, very relatively, like, very, very stable. The internet connectivity is very, very good thanks to Safaricom
We need
throughout
to
the
thank
country.
them for something, right? We can't just
Yeah,
suppress them all the way.
yeah, they do a fantastic job when it comes to data and everything. That is why, like, I'm here in Kenya, like, you can hear me clearly. there is no lag in the signal and that kind of thing. So in that context, the internet and the electricity is there. And then to go a step forward, getting even a low cost 5G enabled smartphone is relatively cheap. If you have, let's say $50, you don't even need to have $50. You can just have $10 and you get a 5G enabled smartphone, and then you can pay slowly. So being on the Bitcoin space and having a smartphone, quick internet and access to electricity is not that cheap, but everyone has, majority of the people have access to it. So I can put Kenya like up there in regards to, even if someone is truly seeking Bitcoin education and you even want it in native languages or in English, listen up to a podcast such as yours, you are in a capacity to do that throughout the country.
Amazing. Well, I guess internet in today's lives, like it's become like food and water to us. You know, without internet, you're kind of you're really it cripples you, which is sad and good at the same time, right? I don't know if it's good or bad, but at least we have it, and that's good to hear. At least Safaricom is doing something good, to keep people connected, even though they're trying to put down Bitcoin, which it's totally fine. As Bitcoiners, we love a good fight. In the end,
Yeah.
we will win. It's only a matter of time. But yeah, I'm curious to hear, essentially, since you've been now kind of in the space, and I'll ask you in a second regarding the two projects that you founded. But before we go there, like, how easy is it to transact with Bitcoin in Kenya today? Like, if you go to the market, like, are there merchants who have a QR code or have it on their phone, or it's still kind of, they're just learning about it but not really kind of utilizing it? They're still, I don't know, scared or not sure, or they prefer the old M-Pesa style of business?
Yeah, I'll answer it like in two steps. The first step, like buying Bitcoin in Kenya right now, or getting I'll start if someone wants to buy Bitcoin in Kenya.
Yeah.
There is the preferred app, which like I've worked with them in several promotions, and I really love their product. It's called BitNob app. When you download the BitNob app, you can now be in a position through the app to buy Bitcoin through your M-Pesa wallet, ironically. So you can have some fiat, go to the M-Pesa agent, top up let's say whatever, $400, and it's on your M-Pesa. So when you do your KYC with BitNob, you can buy Bitcoin directly. You can choose to DCA and do a bunch of very many things on the app itself. So you can on and off ramp using BitNob, and that is what I primarily use. When it comes to other apps for you to send and receive money, Blink, formerly Bitcoin Beach, I work with them very closely, and for them, people like the Blink app, especially for beginners, because of the ease of use for their user interface. It's just straightforward and is easy. You can learn more even about Bitcoin and earn some sats. Uh, the third step would be the peer-to-peer trading in Kenya is very, very vibrant. So get, if you really want to, if you wake up in the morning and decide you want some Bitcoin in Kenya, that is absolutely no problem.
Okay.
It's the path you choose to use. So when it comes to what the merchants prefer, the merchants in Kenya predominantly prefer cash or M-Pesa to Bitcoin as right now. And the sole reason is back up to us in regards to Bitcoin education, because they need to understand what Bitcoin is and the value proposition, especially not just for the medium of exchange, but even as a store of value for their future savings. So to
Yeah.
give you a very good example, let's say where I go at my barber shop or any other place I go, I just introduce them slowly, because I always have like Bitcoin swag, like Blink t-shirts, no one's t-shirts, whatever, my own t-shirts. So they're like, master, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. So they're like, what is this and everything. So I don't push them to the deep end. I'm just like, uh, just do this, download this link app. Let me give you some Bitcoin. I give them
Mm.
some service. When I come the next time and the next time, I explain slowly by slowly. So there'll be one day, like the first day, I just told my Baba, like, do this. I get a haircut 2 times per week, each and every month. So what I want to be doing, I'll be paying you upfront for the whole month. But in order for me to pay upfront, I must pay at least 10% in Bitcoin. Yes or no? So the guy was like, I'm not losing this customer. So I was like,
Nice.
it's your savings and everything. If you want to spend it at any given time, I can show you to spend it and show you how to use the app slowly by slowly. So especially when it pumps and everything, they call me like, yeah, the money went up. Yes, I'm so happy. So
Nice.
it's a good experience. Yes.
I like how you're slowly kind of drip feeding, information to them and not just going full maxi in their face. You need it now, like forget the old system, because people could react the wrong way and say, will either think you're totally crazy or be like, no, I don't want to hear nothing about this. Like it's like it sounds like bogus stuff, but it's nice how you slowly introduce them to them, through the merchandise that you wear, and slowly kind of drip feed them the information and get them interested so that every time they're like, they have time to process, think about it, do some research
Yeah.
online, watch some YouTube videos, and the next time you're there, as you said, they're more than happy to take sats as payment.
No, like I decided to choose that method because unfortunately, I think this is not, I know this is not unique to Kenya in regards to throughout the world in every country there have been like a lot of pyramid schemes where
Yeah.
a lot of families or family loved ones, that kind of thing, have lost money. So people have been really negatively affected by things which come to hypothetically grow their money or keep their money safer or make them like prosper, like in a rapid fashion. And
Hmm.
then to add on to that, obviously these shitcoiners go out of their way to come in with Monero, WorldCoin, all that nonsense. So basically, they pay a lot of money to push disinformation and misinformation through different influencers, which they pay to do like YouTube videos and that kind of thing. So when people lose money, a lot of people, if they do not really understand what Bitcoin is, they just conflict it with the whole crypto space.
Yeah.
So coming from that, me understanding like the state of the understanding and the level of pessimism, I now as a Bitcoin educator, I just sat down and I was like, you can't just meet a person on the street because even me, I did not understand Bitcoin in one day. So it
Of
is a
course.
continuous learning process. And that's why like when I do all my videos and I post everything, I'm like, if you have any question or anything, you can DM me across all platforms. I answer all questions for totally free. If it's me calling me, if it's DM, if it's a video call, yeah. So just slowly by slowly, and then now presenting Bitcoin as a solution because they
Hmm.
need to understand what happened to them is not what will not happen to them in the future when they onboard to the Bitcoin standard.
Yeah, no, I totally relate. Like, there's so many people all over the world that still, I'm sure, as we're recording this podcast, are getting scammed by all these pyramid schemes and all the shitcoinery casino, which then, people lose their money. They expect it to go 100x, but it goes a negative 100x, and then they're like, screw this crypto stuff, and putting
Yeah,
Bitcoin into it makes our job so much harder to kind of do the differentiation. But as you said, it takes a long time for you to, definitely not in a day. Me personally, it took me 4 years to do this separation of cryptos and Bitcoin. But then once you understand it, oh my, you look at the world in a very different lens, and there's definitely no turning back. There's no Men in Black, that tick when they do you forget everything. No, that clicker doesn't work
yeah,
anymore. It's a one-way
yeah,
street,
true.
and I guess, yeah, like, with the issue, and when I really don't like this argument when people say, cryptos for scammers. I tell people, well, before crypto, those scammers were still scamming, just in a different way. And, scammers are
Yeah.
always going to be here, unfortunately. We have, like in every country, we have good people, we have bad people. And unfortunately, some people just try to take advantage of vulnerable people. But in the long run, I think still as we go forward, more and more people that are in the space will come to the realization that we have that, Bitcoin is not a crypto, and, it has its own fundamental basis. And it's an open source, open protocol. I mean, there's no foundation, there's no vesting tokens, there's none of this fancy staking, DeFi, MEFI, all this shenanigans, which are just there to take your money, play the Ponzi scheme. And we are all in control of Bitcoin, and when people say, well, who controls it? And I go, well, we control it. That's the beauty. That's why Bitcoin is so powerful, because us people, the average pleb to the maxi, is the one who's in charge of his sats. There is no CEO of Bitcoin. Dorian Nakamoto might be a good meme, but he's just a meme. He's not real. So yeah, I totally relate that there's, it's that much harder to orange people that have had bad experiences in the crypto space. But, hopefully they are willing to change. And if they don't want to change now, they're going to have to change at some point, because saving in fiat, in the long run, they're going to be losing out big time. And especially in some of the hyperinflationary countries, the Venezuelas, the Turkeys of the world. I mean, people are losing money every single second, and like those people really need to get studying, because time's running away. And it's Bitcoin's not just the speculative thing, as you mentioned, Master Guantai. It's really the only arc we were joking about before the recording started of record that in Kenya we have the floods today that we had in Dubai. And I was saying, well, the big flood's coming and the Bitcoin arc is waiting. You guys better get on that arc soon, because if the flood's still not in your city, it's coming soon. So you better be ready.
Yeah. True. Very true.
So I guess I want to ask you then kind of, so your starting journey started from anger of kind of not being educated at a young age of what is money, how it works, and the greatest pyramid scheme of finance called the US dollar and the Federal Reserve, and then kind of uncovering that. How did you leap into deciding, what, I really want to dedicate my life to educating people, and doing it out of good heart, not charging anyone, no fees, no nothing, being accessible, and starting the BitcoinMantani and BitcoinMatatuke? Did you start them at the same time, or one came first or the other? How did that come around?
So my process from that was, I really went down like the University of YouTube. I literally think I've watched north of 90% of all the videos and the documentaries which talk about money. Like even how like the top businessmen built the banking system to Henry Ford, to just to understand America was the first and everything, like how the banks work, like even in the UK, how money is hidden in this different Commonwealth jurisdictions, because Kenya is a Commonwealth country, because our colonizers were the British. So it was like a thorough history lesson, which took like more than a year just learning it, but at the same time, learning about Bitcoin slowly. So when we learn about all these things, for me, the anger becomes stronger and stronger, because you are realizing that you have lived all your life without knowing this information. And more so, the governments are deliberately hiding things from you. So you do not know, like you do not actually know what is inflation, how it hurts you, because most people's salaries are not adjusted to for inflation if you are not like top management for, let's say, Safaricom. So after learning about all of that and slowly learning about Bitcoin, at that point in time, like I've only had two jobs. I was in the military, I was in the Kenyan Navy. So yeah, spend a lot of time, even in Malindi, where you have your home. Beautiful place. I love it a bit. And so I was in kind of a transition because I decided I left the military. I wanted to find a job where I could like just travel, be like a nomad or something of the sort. So as I was learning more about Bitcoin, just one day, like it dawned on me that let's say a lot of people like in the rural communities live alone, like Nairobi. If you want to explain something to them, you won't like sit down and explain in English. Like, okay, in Kenya, a lot of people are very, very like eloquent, educated, that kind of thing, but not the vast majority of the population. So I was like, these are the guys. If we follow the Bitcoin ethos, like right now, something which Ray Yusuf for the Civic former Paxful says is hyper Bitcoinization and like Bitcoin for the 100%. If we stick to that, truly, it hit me that I'm sitting down watching like what Bitcoin did. How many Kenyans in rural communities can sit down and watch 1 hour of Peter McCormack? That time there was no Michael Saylor in the scene. So how many people can watch in rural Kenya an episode of what Bitcoin did and really understand as I did? So I was like, no, there are certain people who will not understand this, but at the end of the day, they also deserve to get that knowledge and decide for themselves if they want to onboard. So it hit me that instead of looking for this job where like I can be a nobody and everything, I can start I can start my own project, and that's why I started BitcoinMantani. Like I wrote a proposal and everything. So I used to wake up consuming content, doing the not cold calls because at that point in time I don't think I had any Bitcoiners number or even Telegram or that kind of thing. So I watched like an episode with you, Gigi, whatever, like interviewing someone, and then after the episode, I'll DM you or email you. Thank you very much. I learned this and this. I'm Master Guantai. I'm from Kenya. I want to start Bitcoin in Tani, that kind of thing. So slowly by slowly, and yeah, came out with my proposal. Did a lot of like sent north of let's say 1,000+ emails, 99%, not even like, sorry, you cannot do this, just flat out rejections. But for me, I saw it as a personal vision. I was like, this is what I feel I want to do. Coming from the military is all yes sir, yes sir, yes sir. So being in this space where I can do an interview with someone as important as Gigi wearing a t-shirt, just chilling and in my house, I was like, I need to do this. So yeah, slowly by slowly started by doing a blog. I actually got my first Bitcoin from the last halving, not this one for
Yeah.
2024, the actual last one, the previous one. So I used to listen to what Bitcoin did a lot. So Peter McCormack offered half a Bitcoin to people who would write a proposal to start this and this and that project. So I was like, I need this and this, and yeah, I got my first Bitcoin. So from there, I was stoked, totally stoked. So slowly by slowly developed how I wanted it to be, how the website would be, and yeah, I was fortunate enough for me to start off like with investors. So I got investors, and yeah, I actually got more than what I was actually asking for, and they meant I'd be in the space all through. So like to give credit where credit is due, like special shout outs to like Andrew from Galway. Without Andrew from Galway, there would not be a Master Gwanda seated here right now. And yeah, to Brad Mills, everyone knows Brad Mills, like my guide and mentor, investor all through, and the team at Galway, yeah, all great people. Crisanta, they held my hand like I had very good mentors from the get go. That is what has enabled me now to do my part with the Bitcoin Tani, because it was all about uh, just getting Bitcoin content and translating it to native languages. Like me, I speak I speak 4 languages. So if I can do it in Swahili, if I can learn from you and do it in Swahili, it will be a beautiful thing because someone else will understand who was not in a position to watch or read your blog. So that is where how BitcoinMantani started. And then now, yeah, been doing the translations. Decided to pivot from doing the blogs and that kind of thing and pivot to doing videos, which was very intimidating because, well, I thought just sitting in front of a ring light and talking was very narcissistic. Because for me in my brain I was like, this is like a chick doing makeup and everything like on Instagram, so I was not really feeling it. But I was like, I just sat down and really thought about what was not being done effectively in the space. And what was not being done is everyone was 100% concentrating on X, which is not a bad thing. Because by all terms and purposes, X is the LinkedIn for Bitcoin. I've gotten I've gotten contracts, I've gotten jobs, I've gotten investors, I've gotten like everything. X is very important if you're in the Bitcoin space. Like
You
even
got on
if
this
now
podcast
people
from
are,
X.
yeah, exactly. So even if like right now the whole hype is to move to Nostar, that is well and good. But I actually believe the main reason why a lot of people have not just up and left is because they have taken a lot of time, blood, sweat, and tears, sleepless nights, and everything, growing their brands on X and growing their projects on X. So it's not that easy to leave. So
True.
basically, for me, I decided to pivot to doing videos, and the main reason was I always post on X, no problem. But I was like, what is not happening is the younger demographic is intimidated by X, and they do not like it. What they like is short videos which are fun for them and relatable for them. And that is not found on X, that is on TikTok predominantly, and then on Instagram. That is where they are. So instead of nudging them to come to X, let me go to where they are. So I decided to do videos with a target demographic being like, let's say 16 to like 25. And I'm very happy even across all my videos, like that's the demographic which is like most active is like 16 to 25. So just
Amazing.
doing videos in a fun, relatable way. And yeah, but I really like it because the video which has done the worst of the worst on TikTok will get a minimum of, let's say, 100 views. There is no person, very few people even in the Bitcoin space can say they can post something each and every day and get 100 retweets. Like it's close to no one. So you're getting more reach with the videos. That's why, yeah, but it worked out and I was very happy, but very like scared in the beginning because you post a video and then you're looking at your phone every 5 minutes to see are people viewing it, is it liked? But yeah, got a good reception of which I was very happy. And yeah, from there, just interacting with guys, and I decided to do the hashtag Ask Master Guantai, which that hashtag Ask Master Guantai is specifically to attack like shitcoiners, people who are not doing the right thing or just but things I've heard, things I've been told, DMs I've received. And then there is the Master Guantai Bitcoin Me. Uh, Bitcoin Me means what is Bitcoin. So it's through Bitcoin and me explaining different facets about Bitcoin. So like right now, uh, I'm working with I started doing videos about the Bitcoin diploma book. So they approached me and to join they have something which is called the Lightning Node. So it's like different Bitcoin educators from different countries who teach about Bitcoin. So now they come together and we discuss about how we can improve our content and how we can enable people learn about the Bitcoin diploma in different countries in different languages.
Amazing. Wow. Well, I had a lot of things that I wanted to ask you, but then you kept on going further in the rabbit hole. But I might first of all, I want to touch upon short format content and actually to announce to some speakers. I don't know if they heard the announcement or not, but actually this week we've decided to launch our own TikTok, our own Instagram, our own YouTube channel to drop the actual full video podcast, which a lot of people prefer watching them in video. So this episode as well will be, you can check it out on YouTube if you prefer seeing Master Guantai on screen instead of in just in your headphones, but also kind of to put out more of these short contents, because if we really want to change the world, we really need to focus on the young generations, the 16, 17, 18, 20-year-olds, than the 50-year-olds, which don't want to change and they're kind of just getting ready for retirement. So it kind of reassures me that we're doing the right thing, that we launched all of these platforms, because when this podcast was launched last July, so we're nearing more or less our first 1 year anniversary. I only launched the Twitter page because, when it comes to social media, as we said, there's only, Bitcoin Twitter, or Bitcoin X as they call it now. And then I was like, I'm just going to focus on growing the Twitter page. But then now, I'm coming to a realization there's a lot of people who, and like you're saying in your country, the young generations, they don't like it. They use other platforms and they much prefer, checking short content videos of 10 to 20 seconds than reading different tweets and engaging there. So that's a really good sort of say reassurance on our end, and telling all the listeners, go ahead and check out your BTC story on the TikToks and the Instagrams and YouTubes. But now going more to this kind of, which is the online diploma, which is something really good. And I think it's a very nice initiative to really kind of connect different educators around the world, because everybody essentially that's working on Bitcoin education has the same goal, but everyone has different skills, different things, and different cultures see something in a very different light to someone else. And it's good, instead of trying to perfect your craft on your own, getting together and doing it collaboratively, which is one thing I really love about the Bitcoin space. It's more than competition, even though some people say the space is very competitive. It's all about helping each other, because in the end, if I help another fellow Bitcoiner, we all win, right? We all want to see Bitcoin achieve the Bitcoin standard globally, and the more we help out each other, the more we're closer to making that dream true. So yeah, that was some very nice insights. And I guess I want to ask you, Master Guantai, since you kind of do most of your educational stuff online and through the different social platforms and video content, which you mentioned now, but do you do things also like in person? Do you do like any seminars or like meetups? How's that go?
Yeah, if I may start with the meetups, basically in Kenya, because of different, I can say we have a strong uh, Bitcoin community. It may not be like so many people, but the different people doing different projects, and we even have our WhatsApp group, which we go all out for each other. Let's say you're doing your project, and you have a graduation, you have a meetup, you want guys to go travel to this, that, or the other place. Guys will 100% come through for you. So we have meetups which go great. For me personally, through BitcoinMantani, I do trainings. So I concept for me, my my approach is not to do I do not do like online classes where I like get like 50 or 100 people and then teach them and then they graduate. My model is, when it comes to the content, let's say like my approach with the Bitcoin diploma, I'll do each and every section of the Bitcoin diploma and then post all the content like in Swahili and Sheng, like in a relatable fashion on YouTube, on the website, and then do short snippets, which will be then I put on X, Instagram, and TikTok. So that is the full extent of me being online. And then now when it comes to on the ground training is I predominantly concentrate in rural communities and informal settlements. So when it comes to the rural communities, this is where like I'll explain more when we talk about the BitcoinMatatuke project, the one that now I've recently started, like the 7th month. But for the actual on the ground training, what I do is there are informal settlements such as here in Kenya we have Kibra. So I got the introduction through a gentleman who runs many like community projects. His is called Afribits Kibra. So what I do, I go to the informal settlement. We have sessions each like twice a month. So in Kibra, I do them twice a month where they are a group of 60 plus youth, basically between like 16 to like 25 years old. So they have different like hustles, or some of them like make products, let's say like peanut butter. It can be exported. Like let's say you wanted to buy a branded T-shirt, or like a lady would like to buy a purse, or a gentleman a wallet, like from Kenya. So if they're on the Bitcoin standard, all they need to do is just to have like an Instagram, not even a website.
Yeah.
So GG can be wherever in the States. You just send a lightning transaction instead of, because most guys in like most guys in the slum do not have like actual like bank accounts like which are active and that kind of thing. So basically is getting unbanked people now to be on, they know M-Pesa, they use M-Pesa every day. So why not accept Bitcoin? Because Gigi, wherever he is in the world, wants your products but does not have M-Pesa.
Yeah.
So that's what I strive to do, like onboard all these businesses step by step, in person, like trainings, and even going on site to different businesses to just hear their concerns, show them how to set up their wallet, if they need everything, like doing the whole sticking it in the wall, like just everything to show them. My goal is to be more relatable, because what I figured out is it's well and good to have like Bitcoin education, let's say like BTC sessions, like is right now is like the top of the top when it comes to Bitcoin education in English.
Yeah.
And then it's good to have also the online lessons. But for the online lessons, let's say you are Kenyan, to do online lessons, you need access to Wi-Fi, you need a smartphone, and or a smartphone and some credit and reliable electricity. So unfortunately, there are very many Kenyans who do not have that, especially in the slums, which I call the informal settlements, and in the rural community. So to concentrate on these two areas is what Bitcoin Mtani does, because Mtani actually means neighborhood. So Bitcoin in your neighborhood. So it's going to down to the neighborhood. It's not like, let's say like the books like the Bitcoin diploma. Some of these guys it's free and open source, but it's PDF. Maybe you don't have a smartphone, but if you have the physical book, you're in a position to study Bitcoin and even share the book with your buddy at any time you feel like. Yeah.
Amazing. I love the fact that you're kind of tapping into the rural areas and the slums where people need it the most, which have been unbacked forever essentially, and have been kind of left out of this monetary legacy system that's been running for a long time. And you mentioned an interesting thing, setting up your e-commerce shop, maybe Instagram or Facebook or whatever you use. It's with Bitcoin, you can accept payments and orders from all over the world. Doesn't matter if, as you said, if you're in Kenya, if you're in Fiji, if you're in Canada, Italy, wherever. And not just that, but also another thing, when you're traveling to other countries, instead of you having to exchange your own currency for another currency, and like most people do, exchange it at the airport, and they get ripped off by crazy fees and get much less than they're supposed to. You're essentially, like with Bitcoin, you are borderless monetary system that you can travel wherever you want to go, and transact in it. Now, of course, unfortunately, in the year of 2024, you can't go anywhere and pay in Bitcoin. There's a lot of places in some countries more than the others that you can transact in Bitcoin. But slowly, I think as we grow and as the technology matures and people start adopting it, and the more the money printer goes brrr and people start waking up and start choosing to save in Bitcoin, more and more merchants will be, happy to accept it. And I'm really hoping, to go to my local weekend market and pay the grandmothers and the grandfathers with their QR codes or their smartphones, zap them some sats. I'll even tip them more because it'll be appreciation that you're keeping up with the future, and you are willing to change. So it's all a matter of if, but yeah, with Bitcoin, the fact that it's borderless, and the fact that nobody can freeze it, as you mentioned in your country, when M-Pesa goes offline, it's everybody's just like flat out, nobody can transact. And as we see geopolitically with different economic sanctions and whatnot with different countries where, the IMFs and central banks just cut out so many people from using systems, this cannot be done in Bitcoin. And I think that's yet another reason why very corrupt individuals in high positions are very anti-Bitcoin, because they lose, first of all, the control. Second of all, they just can't, manipulate it as they've been manipulating the money supply for the last 100, 200 years.
Yeah, totally. And that's why, like, for me, I've been the one thing which I've been very happy and feel very privileged to have done is to have been consistent. So being like just consistent and Bitcoin only has really grown myself, like my own, like just I'm known as, actually most people in the Bitcoin space just know me as Master Guantai. They don't attach me to like a specific like Bitcoin Matatu or Bitcoin Matatu, of which I can tell you the story. It's a crazy story, but when I actually got the conviction and started writing the proposal to start BitcoinMantani, I told myself all my social media pages, like I really liked X even back then, but I was like, I'm complaining about the government, this, that, or the other, and everything, but no, I need to actually focus in Bitcoin. So what I did, I went and pulled down all my social media pages and decided if I'm posting anything, it has 100% to do with Bitcoin. So my handle even back then was Guantai, but it was Guantai K, I think. But I decided on Master Guantai, and the master literally, it's not my master. I do not have an English name. My name's Guantai Kadurima. But with master, it's a funny thing. I just thought about. I decided I want a cool name in the Bitcoin space. So I was like, to this, it's like a saying or something. For you to master something, you must dedicate at least 10,000 hours studying it. So I was like, yes, let me be Master Guanta and then dedicate like 10,000 hours to this because I want to teach about it. So when I go to meetings, like you can go to a meeting, someone is like, yes, what Master said. And then it's kind of funny.
It's amazing. I also had that question. I was thinking, where did the name Master Guantai came from? But that's a super nice analogy, because yeah, I totally relate to what you mentioned. If you want to become a master of anything, you need to dedicate at least 10,000 hours to studying it. Thankfully, in Bitcoin, to most people that understand it, dedicating 10,000 hours, it's with pleasure. I read everyday Bitcoin
it's not
books.
tiring at all. Yeah.
And
So,
it's also go ahead.
yeah. Also, I just, yeah. So, like through that consistency over time, like I'm very grateful that I had like certain people to guide me. If I didn't know this or that, I could ask, and slowly but surely, you get very good advice in the Bitcoin space. As far as I'm concerned, there are more people willing to help than harm you.
Yeah.
That is in my experience in the Bitcoin space. So Yeah, grew slowly but surely through the proof of work. More people see you. You post different things, different videos, doing different initiatives, and you get slowly but surely they appreciate you more because in the Bitcoin space is all about your work, not this fancy talk and you'll do this and that. You better do it for people to see it, for them to support you. So through that, I got some requests of specifically individuals and then even companies which wanted to come to Kenya. So what typically happened was, let's say Gigi wants to come to Kenya and he knows Master Guantai. Or sometime like you can write a tweet and just say, next week I'm in Kenya, which Bitcoiner should I see? So I'm not even on Twitter at the moment, but guys will be like, you must see Master Guantai. Like anything you need, that guy has got you 100%. So I was just like, yeah, we communicate with you. I get your number. If you need anything done, like let's say you're having difficulty with your visa arrangements, the nice, safe places to stay, places you can go visit, places you can pay in Bitcoin. I started doing that. I was not even charging for it. It's a cool experience to have DG or any Bitcoin in town, and I want to represent my country to the best of my abilities so that when they go back home, they'll say Kenya is a nice country, leave the CNN and Fox News, everything they're telling me is a lie. Not everyone is poor. They're
Yeah.
not living on top of trees. So it went very, very well. Like a lot of Bitcoiners came, like even when the first time actually the BitNob team came to Kenya, we even went to Mombasa. We had like a meetup training event over there, came back to Nairobi. So slowly but surely, a lot of people were coming and I was going out of my way to make sure they are having a pleasant experience. So through that, one day it just dawned to me like to make to make to have more impact, especially on what like Bitcoin Tani wants to do, to have in regards to finances, to get to be more to do like more trips in different rural communities. I was like in Kenya, for your audience, a matatu in Kenya is a public service vehicle.
Hmm.
So a public service vehicle which is highly customized, like with the best of the best graffiti, lights, rims, TVs everywhere. Like just picture your most pimped out Scooby-Doo van. And yeah. So I was like, Matatu culture is very like heavy in Kenya. Like every route to every estate likes their pimped out Matatu. So why not have this Bitcoin themed, very cool, very comfortable van with a with all the memes, with all the like Satoshi graffiti in the back, that kind of like cool thing. So I was like, if I had that, and there are already people who want to come to Kenya, and we are onboarding more and more merchants every day, I can make it actually a project which is a viable business.
Hmm.
So when that dawned on me, and already there are several people who like hit me up when they come to Kenya, like let's meet up or where can I go? And we're increasing our merchants like from having a massage to paying even for sports shooting, that kind of thing. It made sense to me. So I decided instead of me raising funds first, let me go like the car hire route. Like
Hmm.
uh, if I get Gigi or a certain company which wants to come, I do based on what you want and where you want to go. I just write everything for you like in an invoice. You will pay in Bitcoin, no problem. So for me, it's all about making your experience and your time in Kenya as useful as possible. So if you only have even 2 days, I organize like a meetup or a training where you can see me training. I'll make sure you go to different places where they accept sats for payment. And Kenya is the only country to have a national park our capital city, Nairobi. So I'll make sure you go for a safari. you can feed giraffes, you'll see lions, just to make everything like perfect for you. So for you,
Amazing.
you'll pay for your whole safari in Bitcoin. And then for me, I get, other than the places where you want to spend sats, uh, obviously, like if it's a gas station, that kind of thing, maybe a place we go for lunch, I'll pay in fiat, but you can tip like the waitress in Bitcoin. So it's all about getting, especially like people not from Africa. If you're an Asian Bitcoiner, European, American, you can come to Kenya and experience Africa, not just Kenya. Like in December, we had a road trip, like Kenya to Uganda to Kenya to Tanzania. So, like the student of Bitcoin is called Santosh, and the wife, we had a fantastic, I don't know, 10-day road trip.
Wow.
So it was fun, fun, fun. So the ethos for the Bitcoin Matatu is simply to make sure that everyone who wants to visit Africa can do so, knowing that you'll meet a Bitcoiner who you know and trust to show you around and to make most about your experience and to make sure, like just to debunk the notion that Africa is unsafe and that kind of thing to the world.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that to me was debunked early on in my life, kind of watching it on TV, as you said, the people living in the trees, it wasn't like that, and kind of like this prejudice of like, a very bad state where actually, to me personally, the nicest people I've ever met were Kenyans, and everybody was, it never really made sense to me, people that have so little in their lives are so happy, and then people that have too much in their lives are so like miserable and depressed and like very violent, and it kind of made me realize, well, maybe you should have less things in life, and focus more on being happy, being a good human, than kind of trying this materialist, being a collector of everything, and then realizing you're not happy with anything. But going back to your point, which you said, Master Guantai, with having the right people that showed you the way and were there, and what you like in Bitcoin, that more people are here to help you than harm you. I think that's the crucial thing that makes Bitcoin what it is today. Satoshi Nakamoto gave this beautiful protocol to us and then walked away, and we people are the one that are shaping and moving it forward, because if people wouldn't use it, the nodes would be verifying blocks with zero transactions. You need people to be using it and to be evolving it further. And I think people are looking, especially in the world of the big picture, where things are not looking too promising and people are losing their jobs and or working 2-3 jobs at the same time, kind of people hope they want to do something that they actually love than doing something just to pay their bills. And being in the Bitcoin space, you can really focus on the passions that you have. May that be educating, may that be being an artist, may that be, I don't know, tourist guide operator, as you gave a perfect use case. And you can make those experiences so much more fun and tap into and cater to a specific mindset of people that are fully on your frequency, on your mindset. So yeah, that's an amazing experience that you shared. What's next for you? Kind of, what do you want to achieve this year and beyond?
For me, this year and beyond, what it looks like is to actually do more specifically for those two demographics, for the people in rural communities and informal settlements here in Kenya, because uh, I think they are not being given the attention which is due, just to make sure they have access to all these resources, even if they may not be in a position to own a smartphone or to have Wi-Fi or that kind of thing. There are at least some resources which we can give them and show them that they can slowly but surely learn about Bitcoin, and also to just make sure there is like a follow-up. So what I mean is, let's say here in Kenya, we have like the Build to Bitcoin School, which is in Machakos County, which is like a rural area. So if we can give like certain Bitcoin books to like that school. Based on the community, people can come to the school and like choose to get those resources, those brochures, know how to use platforms such as Machankura, where you can actually send and receive sats using the feature phone, not a smartphone. So having like a community like that and really going out of my way, like through the Bitcoin like Matatu tours, because through that, like I can just drive down, like let's say on a Monday and everything, and make sure they have all the resources they need. Talk to the leaders in the community. Maybe if someone is controlling like a WhatsApp group, go to different matches prearranged. So that for me is what I aim to do. And secondly, is making sure that this stereotype of Africa being unsafe, ill, a place where you cannot live and thrive, and like being a second class continent, I totally want to debunk that in the Bitcoin space. And how I'll do that is through consistency. For me, consistency is key. Just the more people come slowly but surely, like a catalog of testimonials. Because right now I can say that through the Bitcoin Matatu tours, like already the student of Bitcoin has come and you have done the tour. I can say Ricky and Laura, the Bitcoin explorers, have come to Kenya and had a good time. So I've had like visitors from the United States, from Italy, from Canada, and even here in Africa, like different African countries coming to experience Kenya and different Bitcoin projects, and they enjoyed their time. They enjoyed the Bitcoin projects. They enjoyed the food. They were 100% safe. They didn't lose anything here in Kenya. And they went back home like happy with lots of good memories. And some of them I went even to convince for them to come and live here in Kenya. So it's just to make sure
Amazing.
that, yeah, Kenya is number one on the map when it comes to the Bitcoin space in Africa.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating how this beautiful open source protocol is not just helping people be financially free, but also helps rural and countries that have not had the privilege to invite and show what they truly stand for, as a way to entice new people to come and really experience what it's like. So it's amazing stuff to hear. And yeah, I definitely wish you all the best of luck with the project, and definitely with the rural area, like people that really need it the most. I think that's very good. And it's very nice to see that you're focusing on people that need it the most, because that satisfaction of helping the most desperate people is the greatest satisfaction. So yeah, it's I'm really happy we got the chance to get you on the show to hear firsthand the amazing stuff that you're doing and kind of your plans for the future. And I guess I want to also close it up on consistency, which you mentioned a few times, and I see you're a true kind of advocate of consistency. It's interesting. I also recently, in the last year, I started training jujitsu, and in my gi, which is the kimono that you use in jujitsu, there's a quote inside at the back that says, um, the consistency is the key to transform from a student to a master. And it's funny that your name is actually Master Guantai, and you talk about consistency. So you're like spot on. When you were talking about consistency, I was just thinking about my gi. But yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. Keep doing something that you're truly passionate and have a vision for is super important. Not to be discouraged, or if at some point things are not going your way, just keep it going. I am of the same mindset with this podcast. I launched the first episode 27th of July 2013. 2023, so last summer.
Yeah.
And every Thursday there's a new episode coming out, and it's going to be coming out for as long as we can take it. I'm consistently keeping to the thing, because it's important, to show people in whatever you do, if you're consistent, you're really passionate and serious about it, than just doing, one educational session or one podcast once a month or two times a month and kind of, not being serious. You need to consistently do it, because at the end of the day, our lives and time itself, which is so precious and very scarce, probably even scarcer than Satoshi's, because time is very short. People don't realize that, you know, your life is very short, and the things that you can achieve in it, you better not waste your days, and really put in, you know, things that are meaningful and can help other people. So, you know, kudos to you, Master Guantai, with all the amazing things that you're doing in your country and the continent at large. And yeah, I wish you all the best of luck. If there's any way I could help with anything, always know that Gigi's your friend and happy to assist. And whenever next time in the future, even though now, as I mentioned, we used to have land in Kenya, we sold it a few years ago, but I do have plans in the future at some point. I have two young daughters as well, so at some point I want to show my little ones what Kenya is all about. So at least now I know I've got a fellow Bitcoin friend there to take care of us. So that's also awesome.
100%. Hakuna Matata.
Hakuna
I look
Matata, that's
forward.
right.
I look forward to you visiting Kenya, and yeah, it's been a real privilege, especially during that you have been to Kenya. So really happy, really nice, and thank you for having me. It's an honor, truly.
You're very welcome, and I'm sure you were surprised. You weren't expecting Gigi to tell you that he's been visiting Kenya for some
Yeah.
time. But I guess let's just ask you the last question, and of course we will link everything in the show notes. But where can we send our listeners to follow you? I guess there's a lot of platforms people can follow you and reach out and ask questions.
Yeah, obviously the one I prefer the most, and which I am like literally when I'm not sleeping, I'm on there, is the X, formerly Twitter. So my handle is at Master Guantai. On 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 TikTok, I'm masterguantai.bitcoin, and on Instagram, masterguantai.bitcoin. So anytime, feel free, DM me if you have any question about Bitcoin in the African space. If you have any question, if you want to travel, that kind of thing, through the Bitcoin Matatu tours, feel free to inquire, all for free. And yeah, we'll take it from there, from Master Guantai in Kenya to you with love.
Amazing. From Kenya with love. Thanks a lot, Master Guantai, and best of luck once again with everything. And we look forward to having you back in the future to share how your amazing initiatives are going and how your Bitcoin story is moving forward.
Thank you very much. And to all the listeners, you're always welcome to Kenya. Thank you very much, Gigi.